How often do they communicate? And how do they communicate? How do you look at those skills? How do you know if they're competent in doing a standardized assessment, say like the Allen Cognitive Level Screening, which is a tool for assessing a person's cognitive level of functioning? How do you check if they can do it themselves? Well, ask them questions. How much experience do you have with this? How do you feel if you were to do this? You as the OT can supervise them as they do it and give them guidance while they're administering it, whether it's role-playing with you as the OT or with the client. You can also have like a skills checklist that they fill out. Oftentimes, because in reality there's so much work to be done and insurance and all that plays factors that you don't often end up doing those checklists. It's usually very much more informal where you ask questions or observe them. It depends on the facilities too. If the company expects you to be given a certain amount of supervision, how you delegate responsibilities and the amount of supervision, type of supervision you give, the companies might dictate that. So back to supervision, frequency, methods. You also look at the type of setting they're in, the type of practice setting, and the complexity of the client needs. Say, for example, you have a client who's in a school versus a client who has a spinal cord injury or a newly acquired spinal cord injury, say in the acute care setting. And so they're learning how to adjust to all these changes, and there's so many different things that you have to be aware of, and dealing with families and other resources you have to take into account. Having a school-based setting that the child has been diagnosed for a while with this, so they've been seeing OTs for a while, versus someone who is newly acquired spinal cord injury and they're going through all these life changes and roles and responsibility changes. What would your level of supervision be in those areas? Likely for the person who had the spinal cord injury, you would give them more supervision. For the COTA who's working with the person with spinal cord injury, you'd give them more supervision. Whereas a person who's working in the school setting, less supervision. There's other things to consider, again, like we said, with the facilities, with the way that your state policies work. So the OT and COTA requirements, documentation for supervision, and all other things related to COTA and OT is also dictated by state. So not only the company, but by state as well. So you have to look at the policies within your state. And so how does this all work? For supervision and frequency of your relationship, the OT and the OTA, the COTA, it is based on the major one is competency of the COTA. And even competency of the OT, because if you have a new OT, a grad like myself in the future, come in and there's a COTA who has 16 years of experience or so much more experience than you do, you want to gain knowledge from them. They've had so much experience in the field. Maybe they don't have the same education per se you've had, but they have so much that they've earned from their experience one-on-one with the clients. Because that one-on-one versus you being in the books all the time, which is what new grads often come with, is not the same. So you'll learn a lot from the dynamic, situational knowledge that the COTAs will bring the OT if they've had more experience, and vice versa. And so again, that's why we make very well as a team. That's why we're very much more effective as a team, because you can't say that one knows more than the other. Both bring the newly graduated OTs or newly graduated COTAs can bring in their knowledge to the more experienced, many years in practice COTA or OT. So never discount that.